Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins documented the Si-Te-Cah folklore. Her account is found in her 1883 book, Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims. She identified the Si-Te-Cah as cattail eaters. They were described as a small, warlike tribe. This tribe inhabited Tools in Humboldt Lake. This provides historical context to the Si-Te-Cah narrative. Winnemucca characterized the Si-Te-Cah as cannibals. According to Winnemucca, the Si-Te-Cah allegedly consumed her people. Winnemucca's account does not describe the Si-Te-Cah as 10-foot-tall giants. This detail is crucial for understanding the original Si-Te-Cah folklore. It helps differentiate between original accounts and later fabrications regarding the Si-Te-Cah. Winnemucca described the Paiute tradition of the Si-Te-Cah killing and eating people. She did not use the English word cannibal directly. Her account conveyed the practice without explicitly naming it. Some translations of her work used the term barbarian. This term was used to describe the Si-Te-Cah. The translations aimed to capture the nature of their actions. Winnemucca's work aimed to advocate for Paiute rights and cultural preservation. After her death, her writings were misinterpreted and misused. These misinterpretations formed the basis for fringe theories, distorting her original intent. Accurate interpretation of indigenous accounts is crucial to avoid such misuse and honor their true meaning. Hair color is determined by the presence and ratio of melanin pigments. Eumelanin is responsible for dark brown and black hues in hair. Pheomelanin produces red and yellow tones. In dry, alkaline environments, taphonomic changes affect hair color. Eumelanin degrades faster than pheomelanin under these conditions. This differential degradation causes by external forces from the location where the body was found, not only dark hair to turn reddish over time but from guano and nattan and the soil itself. Late 19th and early 20th century yellow journalism often misrepresented indigenous oral traditions. Western myths, such as giants in the earth or biblical Nephilim narratives, were imposed on these traditions. This distortion led to the exaggeration of certain indigenous stories, like the Si-Te-Cah narratives. Yellow journalism exploited and sensationalized these stories to fit predetermined Western narratives. Reports of giant skeletons from historical sources should be approached with skepticism. Old newspaper accounts, such as those covering the Lovelock Cave excavations in 1911, are not always reliable. Reported large skeletal sizes were often the result of measurement exaggerations. Misidentification of large animal bones as human remains also contributed to the giant skeleton myth. Skeletal remains from sites like Spirit Cave and Lovelock Cave indicate normal human stature. These findings contradict the sensationalized accounts of giant human skeletons. Archaeological evidence provides insights into the alteration of hair color over time. The archaeological findings of the reddish hair in ancient burials are not only finding that it's a result of taphonomic changes, it can also be forced by intervention. Taphonomic change refers to the alteration of organic remains after death. These changes primarily affect keratin, a key structural protein in hair. Melanin, the pigment responsible for hair color, is also altered. The degradation of these components supports the scientific explanation for color changes in ancient hair samples. North of the Iroquois homelands, which spanned much of modern-day upstate New York, lay rugged, often unsettled, and resource-scarce territories, including the Adirondack Mountains and Canada. Beyond these borders, the environment grew increasingly hostile, mirroring the spiritual landscape described in Iroquois oral tradition. These mountains served as a final frontier, a place where the forces of primordial evil and destruction were driven out of the civilized land but were not entirely extinguished. The very geography of the Adirondacks tells a story of exile. It asserts that the forces of primordial evil and destruction were driven out of the civilized land but were not entirely. Whether you call them Si-Te-Cah, stone giants, or the shadow people of the Abenaki, The story is always the same. They all had a final retreat into the harshest environment. Here, a lock of reddish hair that was passed down through the generations of the Paiute chiefs is thought to be from the last of the Si-Te-Cah War. The Paiute people have passed down this artifact through generations, like Sarah Winnemucca herself. If there was locket hair that we can test like that of Paiute chief Sarah Winnemucca, we can do scientific analysis on the hair, which may finally put the myths to rest. For now, this forgotten artifact provides a tangible link between folklore and historical evidence. A zombie taxon refers to a fossil found in a geological layer that is younger than its actual age. The name comes from the idea that the dead organism's remains appear to be walking. This creates the false conclusion that the species existed for a longer period than it actually did. The fossil appears alive in the geological record long after the organism's extinction. This phenomenon can skew our understanding of evolutionary timelines. It is essential to accurately date fossils to avoid misinterpretations of species duration. Zombie taxa highlight the complexities of fossil preservation and geological processes. The zombie taxon concept describes the reanimation of a dead story. This reanimation occurs when the story is revived in a different cultural context. Newspapers exemplified this by resurrecting the Si-Te-Cah narrative. They integrated the Si-Te-Cah into 19th century myths about giants. This process effectively redressed the original story within a new framework. The Si-Te-Cah narrative evolved over 1,000 years within Paiute generations. Each generation received a hairlock associated with the Si-Te-Cah story. The story gradually morphed due to taphonomic change, which is the alteration of remains over time. Cultural influences within each generation also contributed to the narrative's evolution. The combination of taphonomic and cultural factors resulted in a transformed narrative over time. Whether they were literal giants or just a rival tribe that refused to assimilate, the story of the Si-Te-Cah remains one of the most chilling lost civilization tales in American history. To escape the heat, they rolled in the stinging sand, unknowingly coating their skin in raw natron. This caustic salt didn't just burn, it mummified the living, turning flesh into a stony white crust. Tired of the constant raids, the Paiute attacked the Si-Te-Cah, and the Si-Te-Cah were pursued across the Nevada desert until they were backed into a corner, specifically Lovelock Cave. The fires consumed the cave, lost until a couple of guano miners walked into Lovelock Cave in 1911 and found something that changed the narrative forever. Was this a case of myth understood? DNA proves these remains belong to the Fallon Paiute Shoshone. This link grounds the myth in reality, shifting the tale from ancient giants to a tangible history of ancestral desert survival. The Fallon Paiute Shoshone tribe are descendants of northern Paiute peoples. They are also descendants of western Shoshone peoples. Traditionally, these tribes inhabited Churchill County, Nevada. This region is the ancestral homeland of the Fallon Paiute Shoshone. The Toi-Dukadu were a specific northern Paiute band. They inhabited the Stillwater Marsh area near Spirit Cave. The name Toi-Dukadu translates to cattail eaters. This name reflects their reliance on cattails as a food source. The Toi-Dukadu's existence provides ethno-historical context to the region. This connects the Si-Te-Cah to a specific Paiute group. Early exploration records provide insights into the Great Basin's inhabitants. Explorers and fur traders were among the first to document these encounters. Jedediah Smith is one example of an explorer who produced written accounts. These accounts often use generalized names for the native populations. Common names included terms like Snake Indians and diggers. The term Numa was also used as a general descriptor for these groups. The historian and publisher Arthur C. Parkhurst 1926 collection and publicator of Scunny-Wundy and other Indian tales, while growing up on the Cattaraugus-Seneca Reservation. While he published scholarly texts on Seneca myths as early as 1923, Scunny-Wundy was his primary literary collection of these specific tales, and with his sketcher David Cusick's started in 1827 work, Sketches of Ancient History of the Six Nations, the writings and drawings were published together in the same volume, 1827, first edition. The widely recognized first printed edition was published in 1827 inches, Lewiston, New York. This version was a small 28-page pamphlet and did not include his famous illustrations. Scunny-Wundy had belonged to the Seneca Nation of many generations ago. His name, according to Parker, was Scunny-Wundy. The Mohawk version would be Scane-Wadi, the other side of the rapids. Uzi, Mohawk version, where Scunny-Wundy lived. Scunny-Wundy's boastful personality put him in the position of having to protect the people of the village. A runner told the people that the Stonecoat was near the river. He saw Scunny-Wundy and began to wade across the river. His head went beneath the water, and while out of sight, Scunny-Wundy ran up the river to a shallow where he could cross. The monster walked out of the water to where Scunny-Wundy had been and shouted a challenge. The response came from behind him on the other side of the river. Not being too smart, the Stone Man found the hatchet that Scunny-Wundy had dropped while on that side. He touched it to his tongue, and then he struck a large boulder with it, and the boulder split in two. Scunny-Wundy shouted, "I'll cut your head off with it." The Stonecoat felt fear, for he had seen what the hatchet did to the boulder. He promised that he would leave. The Holder of the Heavens led them into a deep ravine, where the Stonecoats were crushed by great stones rolled down on them in the night. The survivors fled north. Cunning displays, rather than brute strength, was key to defeating the Stonecoats, sometimes called Ganyaegawa in Seneca lore. The story serves as a mythological explanation for the numerous deep, steep gorges and ravines found across New York State in places like the Finger Lakes region or the Catskills. The narrative involves primordial evil forces that were driven out but remain present. These lurking forces are associated with forests and mountains in the region. This reflects the resource-scarce territories located north of the Iroquois homelands. The geographical landscape is thus intertwined with cultural and historical narratives.